Thanks for joining us today. We are here with Suzie Dartlon. She is a mortgage lender, and we are excited to pick her brain and just learn a little bit more about who she is and what she does. So welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And now you had, right before we started, you had started to share a story. So we're going to let you jump in there, and then we're
famous. Yes. We're famous.
We're famous.
We're famous. It has been confirmed today.
Tell me more.
So I was just at Old South Diner having a little breakfast, and the waitress stopped. She goes, "I saw your podcast." And I was like, "Who are you?" I was like, "Good." When people we don't know are watching, like I think that's a W.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then the person behind, she goes, "Oh, you're on a podcast?" I was like, "Oh God, here we go." I was like, "Yeah, here's the name of it. Go look it up. It'll be great." She actually was writing out, "What's your name again?" I was like, "All right. Well, hey, we're lead generating, so that's fine." So here's the second part. What's the best breakfast in Northeast Louisiana?
I think we're going to put that. Are you a breakfast eater?
I'm not.
That's so disappointing.
I'm sorry. We eat breakfast at supper sometimes.
Okay. So if you were going to go to a breakfast restaurant,
especially if you were maybe you have a guest in, and y'all probably cook. You probably do the whole spread, huh?
Negative.
Negative? Okay, I don't know.
We do not cook at my house unless we're at Caney at the camp.
Okay. So if you had somebody in and you wanted to kind of introduce them to like our type of food, where would you take them for breakfast?
I probably would go to Delta Biscuit.
Delta Biscuit. Okay.
I feel like that's like that is the answer. It's not my answer, but I think it's the answer.
Well, we've asked that question before, and that does come up time and time again.
Yeah, we asked in the agent room in a training class one day. We said, "What's the best breakfast in Northeast Louisiana?"
You're going to Old South Diner.
Every chance I get.
My husband eats at Old South Diner for lunch.
Yeah, I can't eat there for lunch. That's how you go to sleep.
Yeah,
I have to stay awake.
Yeah, I like to. I haven't been in years. My nephew and I, we used to. When he lived with me, we would go to, which he's 20 now, but we would go to different places for just, I just like to take him to different places. And we used to go eat there, and the food was great. It's the atmosphere, because it is like an Old South Diner. Like, you've got the older gentlemen and, all the farmer types.
I am by far the youngest person.
You're talking about my husband here.
Well, no, I mean, there are people like between our age and like 80. It was like this span. And then the waitresses, I don't know. It just felt like you were at an Old South Diner.
It feels like you're at like Grandpa's kitchen. Yeah. It's kind of like how it feels. And the thing that's really good there is the bacon. I'm guessing at which brand they're using, but I think it's like the right thick cut. And then they know how to fry that stuff. It's so good. Yeah.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah. Three scrambled eggs, order a bacon crispy, one biscuit. Hits the spot every time.
Well, so Suzie, we really appreciate you coming on and talking with us today. And I know we have talked about relationships. We've talked about Jesus on the same road. Like, it's just kind of wild. And I'd love to know more about you. Like, I got my license in 2006, I believe. 2007, we started the Keller Williams. You've been licensed.
High school.
He likes to say that. I'm like,
he was a baby then when I was born.
Now it's fun. I used to always be the youngest person like that I hung out with, and so I used to do that to people all the time. They're like, I didn't even graduate high school to 2000, and now everybody was like, I was born in 2000, and I'm like, oh, thanks for getting it back.
Yeah.
We had so since how long have you been in the mortgage business? When did you get licensed?
Well, I have been in the mortgage division probably since, let's see, I started at Central Bank. Let me just kind of tell you my background. I started at Central Bank in 1984.
Okay.
Whenever I started going to school. I see your eyes are real big, so see, you wasn't even born.
I was too.
I was not anything.
See, so now you're going to make me feel old. But anyway, my story. So whenever I started there, I started in the proof department while I was going to college. So was given the opportunity to start in cash management. So I worked there for several years. I know you know Barbara Clark. Mm-hmm. You probably, I'm not sure if you do or not. But anyway, Barbara came on board at Central Bank in the mortgage division. I had the opportunity to start to work over there. So I started working for her. I was a processor. So I've done a lot of stuff in the mortgage division. So I've been in mortgage probably for over 30 years. So whenever I started working with her, we did the processing, and then I started underwriting. So I processed, underwrote for her. She decided to move. Whenever she decided to move, they asked me to take the opportunity to be an originator. And it was like, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's, what I really want to do. I like to be in the background. I like to do my work and just go on my little merry way. So I thought, well, it's either sink or swim. So either you take it or you continue to work for someone else. So I decided to take the position, and I've just been doing it ever since. So, it's just been a great opportunity for me. I love what I do. It's very stressful, but, at the end of the day, whenever you get someone in a house, it's like, you've met that goal for them.
Well, and do you think do you think that's, like, since I've been in real estate, your name is synonymous with being able to get houses closed, being able to get clients under contract. Like, I don't know. And I would say that I don't think there's anybody that does a lot of business that somebody isn't happy with them in some way. I've actually never heard that about you.
I'm honored.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah.
I've
never heard nobody say anything negative. Do you think that that's because you've been in all of those different roles? Like, what makes you special?
Well, I can't say that I'm special. Well, thank you for that.
Being humble, but if you look at our production numbers year after year, we would call that special.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it is sometimes you just have to think outside the box, so everything is not black and white. You have to try to figure out, what is special for this person. If your score is not where it needs to be, let's see, what can we do to try to get you there? If you're willing to make those goals and you're willing to try to do whatever you have to do, I'm here to help you. I can't make your credit score, but I can give you suggestions on what you need to do to get you there. And then I think communication has a lot to do with it. I'm not somebody that, I work straight commission. So I'm not someone that's going to give you, like, you come in and it's like, oh yeah, I can do your loan, knowing that I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I'm very upfront, it's yes, I can, or no, I can't. But if it's no, let's do these things to get you where that you need to be for us to come back. And then you come back to me. And we just try to have communication. So, if you call, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to answer my phone every time that you call just because we're busy. I know you're looking at me like, I know you're not going to answer your call.
No, I have coped with that. I used to take it personally, and then I learned it. And I was like, you know what? If I text her or email her, because I'm going to brag on you in a second, but and this is part of it, but is like, I know you're just slammed.
Right.
And if I text or email you, it's like, it's coming back. It may be 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm not kidding. I have legitimately gotten emails from her at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing? But that's what I love about you, if I'm being honest.
I mean, you do what you have to do. And I mean, if I have somebody in my office, I'm not going to be that type of person. It's like, hold on just a second. Let me take this call. Mm-hmm. And then you're on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes. If you come in my office and if you have an appointment at 10, I'm going to do my best to see you at 10. I'm going to give you my undivided attention. Whenever they leave, then I'm going to take those calls or those emails. Now, sometimes, I will, and I've told you before, I might not answer you right back, but before the end of the day or before I leave the office, I try to have all my calls returned. And then before I go to bed, all my emails are answered.
Yeah.
So sometimes it does take me a while, and we've just been very blessed to be busy in order to, to make that production, which in return sometimes makes me a little bit slower to respond.
Well, and this is the interesting thing, and I would say this to all business owners, because I tend to, when I coach people, this comes up. And people are, and we actually talk about, like, you need to have times where you're actually on the phones and you're answering the phones, and there needs to be times where you're, whether it's because you're with a client or you are working on a project, but there needs to be some time where you're not glued to the phone.
Right.
And because, and I think that you can attest to this, and you shared this a bit, as long as people know you're going to get back to them, that's all people really care about. Like, right. if you don't answer me right, and this is the way I feel anyways, if you don't answer me right now, but I know that you're going to get back with me in a timely manner, that's what I care about.
Right.
And that, I think that more people would have maybe even more success if they took that on. And I think sometimes because you give great customer service, or you wouldn't have people continue to come back to you. And I think I wish everybody could take that to go, great customer service doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to pick up the phone every time you call or respond to that text within 2 minutes. Yeah. Though if they responded within 3 days, that would be great. And
she's referring to me, correct?
Well, like this is the first week I've ever texted him and not got something back. And at first I asked him the other day, I was like, do you have me like on unread? Like, didn't you not text? And he texted like, I'm alive. And okay.
I texted you that while I was in front of you.
That's right. And then ignored the next two texts. So, but that, I think that's probably part of your superpower, even if you may not have even realized it. People knowing that you're going to get back to them, I think it's more important than you just always being on the phone, because it's not sustainable if you're doing a lot of business.
Right. Yep. When you can't do everything. I can't answer the phone, take care of people all at the same time. And people will say, well, do you get out? And it's like, I really don't. Whenever I get to the office, I don't leave until I'm leaving to go home for the day. Just because I feel like, and that's my own self situations, I guess, is because I feel like if I'm gone for an hour. By the time I get back, I'm an hour behind. Mm-hmm. So I just try to, just stay at the office. We bring stuff in, and even like my team, and, you can't be productive and you can't do the volume and you can't be where you're at without the people that's behind the scenes. I have a great support team. I have a great staff. We've been blessed to have, I have processor, underwriter, and closer, all in our office. And it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference for me because we have all of those teams there. So, if we have questions on a loan, it's like, okay, how can we make this work? Then we can go and, with Erica as a processor, Patience as my underwriter, then we can go and just have like a little powwow. It's like, okay, let's see what we can do to make this work. And then I can go back to that customer and say, look, we've got you credit approved. You're ready to go. If it's a self-employed borrower, it's like, okay, you get me your tax returns, because they might tell you, based off of their gross income, they might make $500,000. But at the end, we can only use their net income. So whenever you look at that net income and they only show $50,000, well, we can't.
Different house.
Yeah, we can't qualify for a $500,000 house. Yeah. And people don't understand.
They get so mad about that.
Yeah, they do. And it is hard, and I tell them too, because I'm actually a W-2 employee.
Yeah.
So if I take you to lunch, it doesn't bother my income. I can still, have unreimbursed expenses, try to write that off on my tax returns or whatever. But if you go and take somebody to lunch and you write it off, it's taken out of your income where it's not taken out of mine. Correct. So, it is hard, and there's so many guideline restrictions that you just have to follow. And, you just try to be upfront with people as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's that's probably another one of your superpowers. It's, again, so often we don't want to disappoint people.
Right.
And yet I love the saying, I'd rather let you down now or turn you down now than let you down later.
Right.
And to me, that's great customer service. Like you said earlier, like I can or I can't. If I can't, I can't do it for you. I can do it with you. If you do these things, come back, see me, we can make it happen. And I think that's a huge piece. Now, you mentioned with like your underwriter, because I always, in your process for being in the office, it's always interesting, and you run into this, I'm sure, a lot. It's always interesting because that's a unique thing, at least here in our area. And it's always been interesting to me, like if we're doing a loan with another lender and they can't even get in touch with the underwriter, or they can't even tell us what the underwriter's issue was. And they're like, well, they said, I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, give us some more so we can see if we can solve it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, where are they? I'll go drive there. They're like, I don't know where they are. Like,
they're likely in like Virginia.
Yeah.
With the names.
Yeah. I'll go sit in their office. Well, you can't.
Yeah. No, but with her, you actually get a different experience, because if they do have a problem, like her underwriter's in the office next to her, and she gets to go over there and go,
brainstorm.
Hey, we need to figure this out.
Right. Yeah. What can we do to fix it?
Yeah. Because one of the things that I love about Suzie, and because I can't say this about 99% of loan officers, and when I say 99%, I mean literally 99% of loan officers in our area or even online lenders, is that they write pre-qualification letters that can't close. Mm-hmm. And that makes no sense to me. And then they'll sit there and go, oh, no, we're almost there. Give us an extension. Give us one more extension. We'll get this done in 6 more weeks if you guys will hang tight. I'm like, you wrote a pre-qualification letter. In my opinion, there's an integrity issue there.
Well,
and we don't have that issue when it comes to Suzie. And then I'll tell you this, if you're a home buyer, this is a reason you may want to consider using Suzie, is because as a professional listing agent, as all I do in the real estate world, when I get offers, let's say that the offers are all competitive, they're all within $1,000, $2,000, we start to go, who's our real estate agent? Is it someone that is that communicates?
Do they have
someone
a track record of success?
Being a closer, making the deal work, doing whatever it takes to partner with us and get that deal closed. And then we look at their lender. And if those things don't measure up, you can have a lesser offer and they will take your offer. I can tell you numerous times where listing agents have called me or somebody on our team and said, hey, your offer is not the best, but you're a closer and you're using this lender. And we're going to accept your offer based on the fact that we know we're getting to the closing table. So promise me we're getting to the closing table.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and that's extremely, because that every now and then we'll have, and this is, when I ran my team, or even, and you have agents like, I saw how much they sold it for, or offers higher. I'm like, who's your lender? Who is your, they're
yeah. And who are you? It's alternate is all a factor. I have multiple offers on my house right now. The highest offer will not win, because that agent will be so nice to me on the way in trying to get their offer accepted, and they're an absolute jerk as soon as we go under contract. And I will do my absolute best to help the other agents get the deal and work their deal. And I'm advising the seller the entire time, so I'm not making any unilateral decisions.
Well, or to be like, I think what you're intending to say is you're letting the seller know this is the past track record of these.
Correct.
You get to pick. So it's not even like it's not steering. It's like those are all strategic things that sellers and buyers need to understand and know so that they have the best chance.
Yeah. Well, that's literally the professional part of like what we do on the side, right? Is knowing who's going to get us to the closing table, who's going to get us trouble if we even get to the closing table, and saying what is not only your best chance to make the most money, but your best chance to get it done.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, and then too, whenever you send a contract, and if you put on that contract, I want to close May the 15th, then I'm looking at that contract and it's like, I'm doing my very best to get you to May 15th. Now, if there was a problem with the home inspection, we had to postpone it a couple of days, and it might take us a little bit longer. And then, we do LHC, Louisiana Housing Grant. So we've asked for at least a 30 to 45-day contract for those.
Tell us more about that.
Louisiana Housing Grant is a great opportunity. They have a first-time home buyer. If your income is less than like 75.2, they have a 4% grant. If you stay in your house for 5 years or more, then that grant is forgivable. So, they get 4% that they can use towards their down payment or their closing costs. And the rate on those right now on a FHA is at 6.19. So really, you're getting a better rate on those than you are just a regular FHA. Yeah. You have to have a credit score of 640, but whenever... No.
Yeah, it's not unattainable, yeah.
No. Yeah, it's a great, like I said, it's a great opportunity for those. And then you have keys to service, so that one, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. You still get the 4%. The rate on that one Friday was like 6.32 for FHA. So you still see that those are great opportunities. And then that one goes...
It's not a bad rate.
No, it's great, now compared to, kind of where rates are. Yeah. And then that one, for keys to service, if you're, a firefighter, teacher, nurses and things like that, then, you could go up to $125,000 income.
And that's per household or
per household. So it doesn't matter who's on the loan, ever who is 18 years or older that's going to be living in the house, then all that goes into that income.
Okay.
Yeah. And they can get 4% on down payment.
Correct.
Closing cost assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially you can go into an FHA situation, which is typically a 3.5% down payment, have your down payment completely covered, have a little money left over for closing costs, and then negotiate, because I see the tables evening out a little bit more, but we are definitely still in a buyer's market, in my opinion. And so sellers are paying closing costs again.
Right.
So you could essentially, on an FHA loan with a great interest rate, get into a house for the cost of an inspection.
That's right.
$350.
Yeah. I mean, and, because we closed one Friday, they went into it with zero, no money, and they had the LHC grant. And so, it is, like I said, if it's great for, first-time home buyers, because now the market, whenever I bought my first home, and I'm not even going to tell you when that was, because you still probably wasn't born, but anyway.
When was it? All right. When was it?
No, let's see. Byron and I got married in 1990, so that would have been 1991.
I was born.
Okay.
I was 2.
From now on, I'm only going to have like really young people on this podcast so that we can say that to you.
Let him be old at least once.
It's a weird factor because so used to, like on the team, I was by far, I was the youngest. I was one of the youngest people at youngest people. Was definitely the youngest, like agency owner.
Yeah.
And then, but now I've got like 4 or 5 people in the brokerage that are younger than me. I mean, one of them, I don't even call by his name. I call him Young Connor. I got 2 Connors. I have Young Connor and Old Connor. But one's 20 and one's 26.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and that's same. I remember when I got my real estate license, I was 23 or something like that. And like I did the math. I've got a picture of Christy Wheeler and myself and Chuck at my house. And my nephew asked me last night, when was that taken? He's gotten to yesterday he asked me all about ages and how old are you and all this stuff. And I was like, well, that would have been 2015. And I was like, because he was like, how old were you? And I was like, 2015. I do the math and I'm like, that was 9 years ago. I'm 42. And then I was 33 when I became a bowl coach. I thought I was older. 9 years go by so fast. I'm like, this is just brand new.
Time flies.
I think the older you get, the more time flies. Like
absolutely.
The last 4 years have been a blur. It felt like my 20s never went away.
Mm-hmm.
My teen years, God, I thought those were never going to end. And now, like when I'm finally like making money, like having a little fun, like the time, like like week by week, I just blink and it's the next week already. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you look at Monday and then it's Friday. And then it's like Saturday and Sunday goes by so fast, and then you're back to Monday. But, within the market I think that we're in, there's really not a Saturday and Sunday. Because if people call, you're going to answer. Because if you don't answer, they're just going to call somebody else.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we are in a bit of an instantaneous society. And I say that even for me, like especially if I haven't, if I dealt with you before and I know that I'm calling you for something, I'll wait. But if it's like the first time I've asked this question or if I've not done that thing before, I kind of expect somebody to respond, right?
I mean, so I'm guilty of that. But that's also what I preach to our team. And I know Suzie lives her life that way too, because she'll be at the lake. So I pulled up on Susie's dock. I saw him out there one day and we stopped by as me, Chris Rux, and my girlfriend at the time, and then Jen Rux. And we saw him, so we pulled up and said, hey. And of course, Mr. Byron and Miss Suzie were just so super nice. They were the hostess with the mostest, gave us a tour of the house they remodeled. And so we're sitting in there talking. And I walk into their living room kitchen area and like every laptop's open. And I was like, y'all are in here processing loans. Yeah, like people call, we run in here and I take care of business. We come back out for a dock and have fun.
Yeah, I told you now we have Starlink, so no.
Don't worry. If you see somebody out on a boat and they're on their laptop,
I can see it. She's now going to have every realtor that has a boat on a Saturday. Let's go by Suzie.
Yeah, because there ain't no reception out there.
No, if it's busy on the lake, you're doomed. Because and all I have is my hotspot that I was trying to work off of. So. No, so it's extremely slow, or either you have to wait till like late in the evening or early morning. You can kind of get some service, but I'm excited.
I would wake up, I would make a to-do list throughout the day as like text messages randomly would come through, and I would make a to-do list and wake up before everybody else, and I would run up to the corner store in Chatham, and you have good reception there.
Right.
So I could sit in there and hotspot and Zoom call and work, and then I would be back, and I would have done my checklist for anybody else woke up and bring back breakfast for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So, all right, talking about I was bragging on her for, working while she's at the lake and stuff, but we are definitely in a microwave society where people expect instant gratification. It's good and a bad thing. TikTok. Yeah. If you do.
I want to know how to do that in 5 seconds.
Yeah. But I actually saw an insurance agent on Facebook the other day. He's a younger guy, probably 30. And he made like a really rude post. It said something about like somebody just called me at 4:00 wanting like quotes on a Friday, and like they wanted quotes back the same day. And he's like, I'm not a freaking microwave. I'll catch you on Monday. I was like, you can call our insurance company. we will work. Like, But I think that's one of the reasons. I know that's one of the reasons our company's successful. I know it's one of the reasons Suzie is successful is because we really do have that like whatever it takes mentality. We understand that there's, I don't know how many mortgage lenders there are, but they, with the option of online lending as well.
Right.
That like it's speed.
It's a lot. Yes. And it's a lot of choices. So, you have to try to figure out, what makes you not better than somebody else because, it's all the same. Well, it's all the same. The guidelines are all the same. But like I said, if something is not working and if I have somebody that is not coming to close, the closing, it looks like, they went and bought a new car or something. It's okay. So what can we do to make it work? Mm-hmm. So before I call you, before I call that buyer, I'm going to try to have a solution. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes, you can't come up with a solution, but a lot of times, you can, but you've got to do the work and you've got to brainstorm to try to figure out what can I do to make it work.
Well, I think that part's huge. And that's where we've been talking a lot about coming with a beginner's mind. Like, so meaning like a lot of times once you've been doing something for so long, we all can kind of fall into, well, I know what I'm doing. And you start kind of treating it like every day. There's some huge pieces because you've been in the business long enough. You've seen different interest rates, different requirements, different. And so you have the ability to really kind of come at it from we've handled this before. That's not a big deal. We've handled this before. It's not a big deal. Or I may not have handled this, but I've handled something. So I think that's like what a lot of people may not be getting from other lenders. They get from you. And then I do find that you're somebody that, meaning that beginner's mind of going, well, if I haven't experienced this before, how do I go, how do we figure it out? How do we look at it different? And I think that's a huge thing as well when people are working with you because it's you, I don't know. And maybe, I'm not sure how to say this, where it lands, but like when you don't treat your people like just another number, you don't treat them like, hey, I'm successful or I'm busy, so I don't care as much about your loan. It seems like, coming at it from almost like a beginner mortgage person that's hungry and they're like, what can we do to make that work? You still have that beginner's mind and they get the, that knowledge, expertise of somebody that's been in it since he was 2.
No, it was five years before I was born. Yeah. Yeah, no, but so you said earlier, like the guidelines are all the same, and I do agree, unless you have lender overlays, of course.
Right.
We probably won't get into that. But mortgage loans aren't exactly linear because it's not just ABC because people's problems and finances are not ABC.
No.
And so it's untangling that web of their mess and going, all right, let's come up with a solution. And I think that lends to, like, we've had a ton of like rescue deals from you. Not from you, but to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where
somebody, don't you like taking them away from me?
No, that doesn't happen.
Well, that's actually, we've done, last week, we had 2 agents on the team who were doing a call, and we were talking about some challenges that week. And actually 3 that said they had been with another lender, and that lender was quoting them like double the amount of closing costs from anywhere else. And another one, it was just 3 things that the lender wasn't able to make it happen. And they said, look, why don't you talk to Suzie? And you got them all approved. And it was like in like the next day, like,
well, one of them actually stayed with their lender they did stay with their lender,
okay.
But it was an online lending company. Guys, quit using, if you're in Northeast Louisiana, got some good local lenders.
Yeah.
All right. Call me. I'll give you Suzie's number, or just go to SuzieDartlon.com, fill out her online app, and then you can just talk to her directly. They went with Realtor.com. If you fill out an app with them, it sends over to like Neighbors Bank or something. And so we're 7 days from close, and this is a 3-house domino. I'm the last domino on a house in Cuba Boulevard, and they're moving to Lafayette.
And for anybody that's listening to know, a 3-house domino means this person's buying this house, this person's buying this house, and this person's buying this house, and nobody can close unless the other people close.
That's right. And so we get an email from the lender that states they do not have enough cash to close. Our initial estimate was wrong. We're asking that you waive your commission. And I was like, That's a last case scenario. Like we do that. It's if for special,
we're gonna make the deal work.
Yeah, we're gonna make the deal work. But the only thing the lender was like, hey, they don't have enough money to close. We're asking that you guys waive your commission. And I was like, let me look at these fees because it's sitting in my file. I just took it from the buyer's agent. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. And so I look at it, and we had negotiated. They had $8,000 in seller paid closing costs. They were doing a VA loan, which means no down payment, and it was a $225,000 deal. Why do we need any more money? We shouldn't need any more money. Their fees, they needed an additional $7,000 to close. And we were like, yeah, we'll just move you over. So I'm assuming that whenever you pulled their credit, that they saw that because they get a credit alert. If you don't know this, if you're shopping your lenders, they know. Yeah. And so we magically got an email that Monday that said, hey, I think we're going to be able to make these fees work. Don't worry about your commission.
Yeah. This is the other reason why it's super important that you have a, with all the stuff that in the news about realtors, everything. This is the reason why you need a realtor, and you need an experienced realtor, because the experienced realtor can do things like, let me look at the fees. Like, are you comparing apples to apples? And then making sure that your realtor is going to know the lenders that are going to have the best success rate and to connect you with. So those things are super, super important. And you mentioned something. You said this to me on the phone the other day, and I didn't realize this. Remember, I told you the other day that I had all those, all the spam calls, and you're like, hey, did you just apply for a mortgage? Mm-hmm. So Suzie told me how to not have all those spam calls. So I thought, do you remember telling me this?
I do.
Will you share with them? So if you apply for a loan, what's the next thing that you should do? Whenever you don't want all those calls.
Yes. So whenever we pull credit, then the credit bureau or like lenders can go to the credit bureau and they buy trigger leads is what they're called. So whenever we pull your credit, we take out your phone number, we take out your email. We're trying to do anything that will eliminate for someone to be able to get the information, because then that turns it where, one, the customer is getting mad at us because they've got 40 spam calls.
Oh, it's not 40.
Oh, yeah. I know.
It is so many.
It is a lot. So I guess if you're a good buyer, then, I guess you can take privilege to say, okay, I'm a good buyer. Everybody's trying to call me to get my information. But then whenever they go in and they buy that lead, then, you're getting that those calls. So unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do about it. So, we don't sell their information. It's all coming from the credit bureau, which there is a bill in Congress in order for them to come back and say, let's get this bill passed. But it's been there for a year, 2 years, so nothing's been done yet. So we'll see what happens. But there is a opt-out button. So you can go to the credit bureau, and I can't remember the website, but I can get it, and I'll give that to you. And you can maybe share it next time or something.
Yeah, we can put it in the bio of this podcast.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, if they go and if they opt out, it might take a couple of days, but at least it will get them where that they don't get all the calls.
Yeah, and
because people was mad at us, because it's like, I'm getting all these calls.
Yeah.
When I got my first mortgage and that happened, I called my lender. I was like, bro, what is going on? This was awful. Yes. I mean, I kid you not, 100+ phone calls 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
And I make a living off my phone. So when people can't get in touch with me, that's a big problem. And if you're getting 2 phone calls at one time, one's going to voicemail and one's coming through. And if they're calling every 10 seconds, I'm losing money.
Right. Well, and they'll tell you what a good deal, that they can get. Yeah. So, and everybody's looking for a deal.
Yeah.
But I try to, like I said, I am as honest and as upfront as I can be on any loan that we do. So whenever I give a loan estimate sheet, my estimate's probably going to be a little high, because I'd rather be a little high and you be excited when you go to closing because you're bringing a little bit less money than I would be to give you less fees. And then you go to closing and you're coming up with more, just like that buyer, and it's like, okay, where are we going to come up with $6,000 that I don't have?
Well, and that goes right back to, like, when you think about buying a house, getting a mortgage, selling a house, like that realtor, that lender, those are your business partners, the way I look at it. Because a lot of times for the majority of people, this is one of the biggest, transactions you're going to do. You see this with fees. Like, so you may give somebody that Truth in Lending, or, you give them their fee sheet, and they may shop it. Now, I don't know anybody that gives better fees than you, and yet let's say they shop it and they're shopping with somebody they don't know and their realtor doesn't know. It might look like that's better, and then they get to closing and, oh, well, you need to bring this much more. It's very much like we talked about this the other day with like pricing. You are talking to this realtor and then you talk to this realtor. This realtor says, oh, we can sell your house for this much more. Well, we call that buying the listing because there's no numbers that say that. There's no, like, maybe that person just, either did it because they didn't know or they didn't want to have the conversation with and disappoint the seller. But then you have to come down. And so you actually, what's the track record of the agent that you're dealing with? Because sometimes what looked good up front may not be the best thing in the end.
Right.
And so I do think, make sure with your realtor and work with Suzie if you're local. If you're not, make sure if you are comparing lenders, look at, get with your realtor, make sure they know what they're doing. And that way you're comparing apples to apples and you're not just making assumptions that, oh yeah, this is the number. Because sometimes you'll get surprised at closing and there's always things outside of our control. And yet there are people that will do that because they know now you get down to the wire and you have to figure it out. You have to bring the money versus...
Well, you don't have a choice at that part, or either you're going to start all over.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's what I'll tell people too. If I know that they're shopping and they bring us a loan estimate sheet, it's like, okay, let's compare, because our bank fee is $8.99 and that takes care of your tax service, underwriting fee, credit report, flood certificate, anything that we do is the $8.99. So,
and to be clear for everybody, that is a low lender fee. That is not high. That is low.
And some, lenders will break that down. They'll have a credit report fee, a flood certificate fee. So you have to add all of those up. And if they will come to me, and say, okay, this lender has given me this is what you have, can I match or try to beat it? Then yes, I will try to do whatever I can to try to keep the loan. Normally doesn't happen, but I'm not going to say that, that there are not people out there that will give a little bit better something as far as a fee. They're not going to give you better service than what we're going to give, I don't think. But if they come in and they say, okay, their bank fee is $8.99, yours is $8.99, let's look at the rest of the fees. Because if you come in and I show that you have $5,000 worth of fees, they have $4,000 worth of fees, something's wrong because something is not there. So sometimes whenever you see an online lender, they might not have title insurance. They might not have owner's title insurance. They might not have specific fees on there that I know that you're going to have.
Yeah. Well, they don't use fees and they use the word origination fees, which is a percentage of your loan.
Right.
And that's where online lenders are typically just outpricing the market. And they'll say that they're giving you this great rate or whatever, but go look at those fees because
right.
You are going to lose a ton of cash and negotiation power if you don't have the cash you're asking the seller to pay for an exorbitant amount of closing costs. So let's just say a $200,000 deal, closing costs should be what, $6,000 to $7,000?
Yes.
And we're getting these online lenders asking for $10,000, $13,000, $12,000. Well, now you have to go negotiate that.
Right.
And that becomes, if you don't have the cash, you got to ask the seller to pay it. And now your lender is the reason you can't get the deal.
Right, absolutely. Because, we had one that's an online lender, and so they were getting a better rate. So I told her, I said, just get me the fee sheet because there's just no way. I don't understand how they can give you better than what I can give with no origination fee. Now, if you want to buy down the rate, you can get a better interest rate. So let's look at that. So she sent it to me. She was bound to determine she wanted 5.99. She was paying over $10,000 on a $200,000 sales price to get to that rate. And it was like, I can do the same and still save you, but it would be 6%, because I don't really go 5.99. We can, but, usually I'll go in, specific numbers. Mm-hmm. But she ended up closing that with that company because she thought she was getting a better interest rate. But in the end result, she paid over $20,000 in closing costs.
That's insane. And that your cash on cash investment, and this is me as an investor, right? It doesn't make sense. Especially because, and this is my belief, I think in the next 2 to 5 years, you're going to be in a refi market anyway. Yeah. And so if you go in and look at your amortization schedule and how much interest will I pay, which interest is tax deductible on your primary principal residence, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to pay this much interest over the next 5 years before I refi. And then over here, I'm going to pay this much, but I'm going to pay this much to get this much. And then I'm going to refi anyway in 3 to 5 years, more than likely. I'm going to pay a whole new set of closing costs on that refi. If you're going to pay closing costs in 3 to 5 years on a refi, which you're talking about a whole nother closing, you're talking about another $5, $6, $7, $8,000 to get a 1-2% interest rate better, probably not 2, maybe 1, better, and it financially doesn't make sense. That person got robbed that day.
Well, and this is, and I don't know, and this is interesting. You feel like it's going to be a refinance market. I'd love to hear what you. I don't know that it will because
nobody knows.
Yeah.
And yet we did like how many people did you lock at a high 7 or at 8 2 months ago?
Several.
Yeah. And out those people, if it drops one more point, if we can find a 5 for somebody for 3%, I'm refinancing this house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because my thing is, okay, so refinance, that works. The other piece could be if you are going to live there for 5-7 years. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Like, have you?
The average person lives in their house around 7 years, especially if you're.
It's like 7 to 9 right now.
The transitional years of your life, So if you're newlywed and you're thinking about having a kid, there's a chance you could be buying a new house.
Right.
So you've spent all that money in closing costs to buy down that rate. I am just not a fan of the buy down right now at all.
Well, I think if you explain it to the consumer whenever they come in, usually I'll say, these are the rates. Just say if the rate today was at 6.5 with a 1% origination fee, but at 6.875 with no origination fee. I will say, okay, you're paying $2,000, but you're only saving $20 a month. Let's see, how long does it take to recoup that money? 1, are you planning on living in the house that long? 2, are you going to try to refi? If, the rates come down, you at least need to drop 1% before it costs justify you to refi. So there's a lot of factors into that. Or number 2, do you have enough money to cover that $2,000? Or are you planning on painting? Are you getting a refrigerator? Are those things that you're going to have to go in and, get a credit card or, finance that? And if you are, don't buy down the rate.
Yeah.
But, if you have a lot of cash and I'm never going to refi, I'm staying in this house forever, then sure, buy it down. But you just have to look at everybody's.
Yeah, everybody has a unique situation. Yeah. So that's the other piece. Because sometimes, and I think we all, and I love a good deal. Mm-hmm. What's even more important to me than a good deal, though, is somebody like Suzie that I can say, break this down to me. And she can share all of that. And then we're adults. We get to make the decision. But now I go into it knowing, oh, okay, like I could do this and it would take me this many months. But like I said, I'm going to buy a refrigerator. So actually didn't help me out. Or, so all like, having somebody that will tell you all of the options and ask you enough questions to understand what options might be the best for you and explain it. I think that's sometimes we forget to put, or it's hard to put a price on that. But to me, it's the reason why, some people put their kids in, maybe they put them in private school if they don't like the public school. Well, but you could get public school for free, even certain places. But there's a reason why. Well, it's because you wanted, you're willing to pay for the best. And thankfully you're not charging more, but that experience and everything else that you have, like to me that.
Well, statistically, I would say she's actually charging less. Yeah. So you get better service, money staying local to a local family who invests in the community as a part of the community. And then you're also going to pay less.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for me.
Win-win. Yeah.
Well, and you want people to stay local because, you come to us and it's like, okay, will you sponsor my open house this week? It's like, sure. Then you get, local people, you're buying from local. But then if those people go in and they go out of state for, somebody that's not local, then that's taking the money out of our economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said the sponsoring thing. I have a big pet peeve. And it's people who did not use me as their realtor or our company because we're too expensive or whatever, or went for sub-owner, but they were the first people to be up in my inbox and be like, hey, can you sponsor my kid's softball team? And that was client's first. I apologize. Absolutely. The answer is absolutely not. I was too expensive. Remember, that's how we fund our community.
Right.
Is by people who support us. Like,
right.
These are the people that we do support and give away money to. So yeah, that was sorry. That was a setback moment for me.
It's okay. You know, we did sponsor the dragon boat races, and we won first place.
I saw that. So wait,
Isn't that
hold
great?
up. Were you specifically in a dragon boat?
I was not in the boat this
She was
year.
cheerleading.
I was the cheerleader. Lindsay was the drummer.
Okay.
And then we had people, you know, that Josh knew, and my son and my husband.
Well, Josh is he's like Captain America of mortgage loans. Like he's like swimming miles in Caney, and is he still doing a bunch of athletic stuff right now?
Well, you know, now he wants to do some type of, I'm probably going to get it wrong, climb some mountain or something in.
Okay.
So he's training for that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah. He decided he would swim across Caney last summer, you know, a mile.
Yeah.
You know, I love Caney, and I'll sit in there for hours with a beer in my hand, but I am not swimming. There are just some murky sides to that. I'm trying to get right in the center where it's like 35 feet deep, you know, and I get a large group of people around me. Yeah,
Somebody else can get eaten.
the odds. Look, the alligator's not coming after the biggest guy. Just keep a few kids around me when I got the bait, you know. So anyway, no, that was bad. All right, Suzie, so everybody knows you're a mortgage loan officer. Like that's what you're known for. Tell us about the rest of your life, like and investing, hobbies. Like, tell us about that part.
Well, if you ask my family, they're going to say my hobby is work, you know, because that's all I do.
I would agree with that. We have a saying in THLT, and like it's like so bad, but we say one of us. Like, have you ever seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street?
That's a terrible movie, but
It's not a terrible movie. It's not a terrible movie.
okay.
I'm not a TV person.
Yeah,
You should watch the movie.
it's a good movie. The guy that the movie is about is not necessarily a great person.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But anyway, like, so he takes his group of street rats and turns them into Wall Street investment bankers. And like they're just a bunch of straight killers. Like, that's just all. Like, they're in there, they are making money, they're living the life. It's anyway, I say it's a great movie. Some people are probably going, so you're a terrible person. But anyway, but they when they bring somebody in and like he's killing it, and they're like, one of us. So in TH, we do that in THLT. Like, when somebody's showing up big time, like that's like the introductory is like, one of us. Let's go.
It's like
Suzie is one of us. Like,
that's the cool part. So it's like the movie, the challenge out of the movie is that like the morality is not there, you know. So we are one of us under the umbrella of we have good morals.
it's talking more so like their motto in that is, it's drugs and women and all this stuff. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about the work.
Penny scam.
The work. I'm talking about the work ethic, the drive, to do whatever it takes to wake up early, stay late, ask if there's anything that needs to be done before you go home. Even though you want to stay late for an hour, you showed up an hour earlier than you were expected to clock in, and you did it with excellence. And then before you went to bed, you emailed that dumb realtor about his loan at 1 a.m. talking about himself, and she didn't call me. But like that's who Suzie is. So, all right, now let's go to.
So who am I?
Yeah.
Well, I have. Let me see. How do I even want to start? I've been married to Byron. He and I were, I guess, sweethearts in school. I met him whenever I was almost 16. We dated for 10 years. Got married, and so this year we'll be married for 44 years.
Well, that's beautiful.
So, 34 years. So I've known him for 44.
And how old you are?
34?
Yeah. 30. So see, I got married whenever he was a baby.
Say, look, now you always know how old I am now. Yeah.
I have two great kids. I have Dylan, that's 23. He goes to school at Tech. And then I have Lindsay, that's 30. She works for me. Yeah. Lindsay has worked for me since she was in college. She graduated in elementary education, got her master's. I asked her, did she want to stay with me and work? And she said yes. I tried to get her to try to do mortgage lending, but she said that is just not her thing. She doesn't want to work the hours that I work. So she got married to Josh 2 years ago. So
Josh's name for everybody. Last
yes.
name.
Fassian.
Because if you see it, you like me, you probably can't say it.
And so anyway, whenever they got married, right before they got married, actually I asked Josh, I had a position, if he wanted to come on and try to learn to be an originator. So he's in the process of doing that. He's doing a great job.
I have had zero complaints with our clients who have used him. So.
He's a great communicator, you know, so he knows, and he knows, and that's what, whenever we talked before, you know, that no loan is the same. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you just have to restructure each and every one of them to know, you know, okay, this one's different, so what do I do? So he's learning all the ins and outs. You know, he processed, started doing all the things that was behind the scene in the beginnings to, you know, to kind of learn to originate, which I think makes a good originator, because that's how I started. You know, I did from ground up and went to the position that I'm in now. So I just think that helps. But
he also has a cheat sheet in this world.
Well,
he gets to work next door to the go to mortgage lending. Yeah.
Well, so anyway, you know, as far as family time, you know, I love my family dearly, you know, so we go skiing together. You know, we have the house on Caney. You know, I love doing things with them. So as long as they're willing to hang out with Byron and myself, then, hey, I will do whatever that they want to do. I love working in my yard. Like today, it's raining, but after a while, if it's not raining, I'm going to plant some flowers in my flower bed.
See,
and so,
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I have.
So, and I love to shop.
Favorite shop? Favorite place to shop locally?
Well, I probably would have to say Herringstones. Okay. That's going to be one of my favorite, you know.
So Herringstone.
I was expecting Sheen.
No.
Well, I do shop from Sheen, but that is not local.
Yeah. So Herringstone's like where we're looking for a sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Herringstone. So now you and then you mentioned that you were telling me about your dogs.
Yes. We have several dogs. I have a little French bulldog, and like I told you this morning, he stinks like a skunk. He decided to run off for a while, and we have 20 acres kind of where that we're at. So I guess there was a skunk that ran across the yard, and they followed it, and now he stinks like a skunk. We have 3 American bulldogs right now. We had a female that had 11 puppies about 2 years ago, so we have rehomed those. Lindsay and Josh took 1. We kept 2, and then we have the mom dog, and then our dad dog passed away in the winter when we was going on vacation. So
sad.
Yes, he was probably about 14, 15 or something.
He lived a good life.
He did. He was a great dog, great. Yeah. You know, people come in our yard, it's like they're scared of it. Well, he's real loving. He's kind of sat beside me the whole time.
Yeah.
He's
somebody pet me.
Yeah. I think he realized, like, who's nervous in the group? That's what I'm coming.
Well, then that's why he's with me.
We had Scooter Howell on.
Yeah.
And he said he was taking care of Scooter, so he makes her guests comfortable.
That's right. All right, and then, so you guys are also real estate investors, correct?
We do have some investment property.
Okay. How many doors are you all up to?
I knew you was going to ask me that. We bought a unit. We probably have, 30, 40, maybe 45.
Let's go. That's amazing.
And are they all single-family, apartments, duplexes? Do you have a preference?
Look, I told my husband whenever we got into this, I will do my job, and that's his job. You know, people will laugh.
And then we need to get married. We don't have that.
Wait, what do you want me to do?
I'm saying you got to find me a husband. I'll find you a wife, and we'll be good.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast last week. Like, I am perpetually saying this. I'm just going to hire Lisa. So
But he's pretty tied into that business. So he handles those pieces.
He does. So whenever we first got into it, I work a lot. So, you know, that I don't have time for that. So I told him, you know, if we want to do that, then, you know, I'm all in. We laugh because people ask, you know, what do you do for a living? Well, me and our kids, we laugh because it's like, he don't have a job, you know, but he does because he takes care of of all of the things, you know. I mean, if it's somebody's toilet, you know, if it's somebody's air conditioner, things like that, you know,
what's your love language? Do you know?
I don't. So you ask me and I'll tell you.
Okay, so it's...
You have to take the assessment.
So
words of affirmation. Physical touch. Gifts.
Acts of service.
Like somebody doing nice things for you. We're missing one.
Yeah, we are.
he's going to be the love language because he's very affectionate.
Yeah.
You know, so, but do I get on his nerves whenever I work a lot? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, can you just take a break from the phone? It's like, well, if it rings, it's like, if I hear my phone over there beeping, it's like, you know, it's like, who's that calling? You know, I need to answer that call. Mm-hmm. You know, I just can't not do it. Yeah. You know, it's just not in my genes. Mm-hmm. And I've said before, my parents are great parents, you know, and they raised me and my sister and my brother well. Yeah. But sometimes I tell them they raised us too good because our work ethic, I think, is above what a lot of people's are. And I'm not bragging on myself, but I know that I will work. I go to work. I don't expect anybody in my office to do anything that I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm at work at 7 and you go to, or if they go at 6, I should be there at 6. Yeah. You know, if they stay late, I should stay late. Yeah. I'm usually trying to be, and I'm not always the first one there, but I'm usually the first one there, last one to leave. Yeah. Because I don't ever want them to think that I'm taking advantage of them for doing something that I wouldn't do. And I feel like that's why I have a great staff. You know, like I said, I have Lindsay that is kind of a personal assistant that just can do anything. I have Josh that's learning to originate. We have a new girl that's going to start processing. She's starting Monday. And then I have Erica that's been with me for a long time. And then I have patience. So, you know, I think it means something that they have stayed with us and they have worked themselves to the bone. Mm-hmm. You know, whenever 2020 and 21 was coming into play and everybody was so busy, we kept the same staff. I did not hire anybody extra, but they were there Saturday, Sunday. They worked late. They did whatever that we had to do to try to get that customer closed. And that just means, it means a lot to me. In return, it means a lot to those consumers. And, you know, and there again, you know, it helps my pocketbook because if the loan doesn't close, I get paid zero. Mm-hmm. So I'm not up there twiddling my thumbs, wasting my time, your time, and especially the borrower's time, you know, because you get attached to that house. As soon as you put that contract in there, then it's like, okay, this is my house. I want that house. I'm going to do whatever I can to get the house. And then if it falls through, I feel bad. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't sleep well. So it's like you're trying to figure out, okay, if something happens, what can I do to make that work? Because it's like, okay, am I fixing to have to buy a house? Am I fixing to have to, you know, what are we going to do to get them to be able to make that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, what we just heard was pull from the front leadership. Yeah. Which is that's the personal style that I enjoy. Mainly just because, like, again, what you said is, you know, I don't want my staff or agents or whoever to go, oh, well, Harrison's just living the high life and we're doing all the work. Right. But there, you know, it's not hard for me to outwork 99% of people. There is one person in the company that keeps me on my toes 24/7. Makes me feel so convicted if I'm not working 24/7. Yeah. But you know who that is. But yeah, no, I love that style of leadership because that's something I can respect. It's like, hey, they're not sitting on the yacht while I'm slaving away and they're making all the money. It's like, hey, they're here too. You know, they're in the trenches with me. In fact, there was one person before they came to the team. They said, one of the reasons that I'm coming to the team is I don't like the brokerage model in the sense of there's somebody at the top who doesn't sell real estate, who's not in the day-to-day of the business, and that nobody's in the trenches with me. I'm doing all the work, taking all the risk, and then someone else is getting half the profit. Mm-hmm. And they said, as long as you stay in the trenches with me, I'll be here. And they don't mean, like, I don't just have to sell, like, but they want to know that I'm working. Even if it's going to open up another company, like, if they call me at 3:00 on a work day, like, they want to hear what I'm dreaming about, what I'm opening, how I'm advancing opportunities towards the people in our world. So I love that about you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got, so I said that about getting married. So that was, Gary Keller at Keller Williams. He used to talk about that if you know, how to find talent. And so we, you know, and I actually, kind of lead a class or teach people like how to hire and things like that. But one of the things that he said, and I actually thought was really cool, he's like, either you have to grow it, meaning have the kid, marry the person, or you got to get really good at learning how to hire. And so I thought, you did that, right? You raised up. And then she recruited her husband, so you've got kids, you've got dogs, you like to go to the lake on Caney, like to play in your yard. Y'all have investment properties. Is there anything else that you're interested in, business-wise or play-wise, that you don't have right now, but that you want to have?
Well, I think everybody wants some extra time. Time is of essence, because I'll tell you, you probably have figured it out by now since you're so young. I'm 59. So at some point you do want to retire and you want to be able to enjoy life or go on a vacation that you feel like that maybe you don't really have to take your phone, but will I ever be comfortable with that? I'm not a very good delegator, and I love to work. And I think work is my passion because I really love what I do. So I think that just kind of overflows. And Byron had also said, if I go home, I probably would be bored because what am I going to do? I can only play in the flower beds for so long. I can only clean my house for so long. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But it's sometimes you do want to maybe eventually take a step back and feel like that, that you could go on a vacation and go somewhere and feel like it's okay to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because if I go on vacation now, I'm usually stressed before I leave, but I take my phone, my computer's with me, I check my email, I check my phone. So do you really ever get to take a vacation? And
you've started the process though. Like you've started
and the right people.
Yeah. So we just call it buying back your time.
Right.
And there's a great book by that on that, by the way, that you should probably read. Dan Martell wrote it. It's great. I actually was listening to some of his podcasts and stuff yesterday. I sent like a 15-minute link to the team's habits of the top 0.001% of business owners,
Right.
And but you hired Josh and you're training him,
right?
So tell me how like those steps went. Like when you hired him, like what were you looking for? Because it wasn't just like, hey, you're married my daughter. You should just go work in a family business, right? Like there were some things there, and you obviously had a need. You know where you're at in your life,
right?
You're getting to a stage in your life where time may be more important than income,
right?
Because you guys have invested and done well,
right? And you have to be content. Life is about contentment. I'm very content, So do I want something bigger and better? I think that's with anybody. As goals, you always want better for, not so much for myself, I want better for my kids because I'm at the age where you have kids and it's like you want to be able to leave them something so it's not as hard on them. Like I told you earlier, I have great parents. My parents taught us, the right way, to live your life the way that you should, financial wise, I love them dearly, but, we just didn't have that. Byron and I built what we have pretty much on our own. His parents didn't have the wealth that, some people have that, that you can just give your kids and you can just live your life the way that you want to live. We just didn't have that, but they gave us the work ethic to be able to do it. So we've been able, like I said, we've been very fortunate to be able to live our life and be able to get things. My job has paid me well. So whenever you get paid well, like he said, he's good with his hands. And so, if we buy a house that was in need of a bunch of repairs, he can do anything. So he can make that to be something. And so whenever you rent it out, then you have that investment. I like to see money in the bank. He said, go buy that house on 123 Street and you can look at your money.
Well, so to be fair, like money in the bank is no money at all. Like I think past X. Now, if you're running a business, you need an operation account and a safety net. Then you also should have emergency funds for your personal life stuff.
Right.
But if you look at the rate of inflation and how our dollar is degrading year after year, if you had 100, what was it? Our dollar was devalued by like 20% in the last 2 or 3 years. And so if you had $100,000 in the bank, it now spends like $70,000 to $80,000. However, if you went and bought a house with that money, it pays out in dividends every month, right? Because you're renting it out. And then that house has likely appreciated 2 to 3% in our area year over year. And then at the same time, you get, because you're doing rentals and you own a business now, you get some tax benefits as well. So I'm going to agree with Byron on that. And
that's the great. That's the great. Like
that balance.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching something and I thought it was very interesting. You think about it. Banks don't even like to keep money in. Like as soon as like a bank, I was. As soon as you deposit money in their account, what are they doing with it? They're lending it, right? Like they don't even want to keep a whole bunch of cash there. So I thought that was interesting.
But the next level of wealth. So how much time do you have in a day?
24 hours.
How much time are you going to have next week in a day?
Well, I'm still going to have 24.
Exactly. But how do you get more time? You make the money work for you. Mm-hmm. That's been the most, that is the secret of building wealth, is not trading your time for money, but making the money that you've earned through your time, make money to where now you can replace yourself.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's, you would mention that about being able to, go out of town, because this is always the counterbalance I see with people that work hard, but they really like what they do. Even like, yes, and we all are going to have days where we don't like it because of, but for the most part, like, you wouldn't work the way you do if there wasn't something that like you get engaged in it. So a lot of times I'll ask coaching clients, I'm like, but I like how much I work, or not necessarily how much, but I like what I do. And then you go, well, what does your family think about it? How do we, so one of the things, and maybe you and I can grab a lunch and we can look at pieces, because now you have those pieces in play. I'd love to play around in your head a little bit.
It's not much there.
So creepy.
I am learning how to hypnotize people soon. But I will. But just because it would be very interesting for you to, in the next year, 6 months, year, whatever, be able to take at least 1 day off a week, or 1 week a year even, where you can completely unplug and just be there with Byron or your kids or whatnot, and you have those things taken care of in such a way that you don't feel that anxiety of everything, right. Just so. But that is, it's a interesting or a fun thing to get there. And then of course I even notice, like when I go out of town or something, and I'm sure you probably do this as well, like the first 2 or 3 days I'm still at work. Right? Like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then you finally get, okay, now I'm in vacation mode. Now it's time to go back home. But yet the cool part is you have put yourself in a position, and that, we think about, our parents did this. They helped get us to here. Now you've done this. You've helped get your kids to this. And now they're going to be able to continue that legacy with their kids, and thinking differently and having different opportunities because of what you guys are doing. So that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. And you asked me about, how did I choose Josh? Mm-hmm. I guess he was chosen. I did give him more of an opportunity because he was marrying Lindsay.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he did have, he had a job, and that job just wasn't panning out. And I knew he had a finance degree. I know he is driven. I know he likes numbers, and I know that he would be the type of person that would learn from me. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't we're not in competition, because some people will call and just say, do you want me to talk to Josh or do you want me to talk to you? It doesn't matter, because we're a team and we're going to work together. Mm-hmm. So he is, he's real hungry, if you want to use that word, to learn. Mm-hmm. And so as he learns, he knows that he, one, is going to make more money. Mm-hmm. He's going to be able to provide better for my daughter, and if they have kids, my grandkids, that's right. So I know that is and like I said, it's just a great opportunity. Mm-hmm. The job is very rewarding, and I just feel like that, he is just that person that would fit with us. Mm-hmm. I had someone before that we had hired whenever I worked at Iberia Bank. It just didn't work because if he didn't come in until 10, and he might leave at 2, and he might just be like, okay, I'm going out to see Harrison, or I might go see Alivia, or I might go see Jane, or whoever. Mm-hmm. But were you bringing in the production doing that? And the answer is no. And it's like, I can't deal with somebody that's not going to be productive.
No, whoever we talk about this a lot, like with him as he's bringing agents in, they have to fit the culture, and everybody's got a different definition of what culture is. I loved Ben Kenny a long time ago. He said this, and I was like, that's the culture. It's a culture of productivity. Mm-hmm. And to me, that means so many things, but it's not just about being here and rah-rah and I feel good, because eventually it doesn't matter how good we feel. If we all broke,
there's no money. That ain't much of a culture.
Yeah. And so it's that culture of productivity. And so there are going to be times where they may be great people and they may be great fit, just not here.
Right.
And like you said, and just, not here, they've got to fit that cultural, and part of your culture is we hustle, we work hard, we do what it takes. we take care of our people. That's not an easy thing to duplicate. So hats off to you. That's a big deal to be able to duplicate and bring people in that have that.
Right. And he'll get his own niche. Everybody has a niche. So whenever you're developing and you're growing and you're learning, then, I'm not saying my way is the perfect way.
Statistically speaking, it's not bad, right?
Well, we've done well, with whatever that we do. But, if you come and just say, hey, this is really not working for us, we would really like for you to change and do this. Now, I might say yes and I might say no. I'm not going to say my way's the right way. I'm only doing it this way, because everybody doesn't structure the way that I structure. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you just have to make adjustments. So, and that's just life in general. You have to be able to make adjustments to make things work.
Adapt on your feet.
Yeah. Well, and that's, we talk when coaching somebody. So like I'll have this client that comes in and like Harrison's, he's, grow big and for sub owners and expires. And then I'll coach an agent that they're not. And it scares them or whatever. Now, sometimes the fear is just like, okay, hey, we just need to do it. And then you won't be scared of it anymore. I used to be scared of expireds, and then they were my favorite. So sometimes it's just, hey, we need to get over it. Sometimes it's, what, like, let's look at your business. Where does it come from? You know what you're really great at is networking. Well, let's just network more, right? So that's, I think some of that is, but ultimately the end result, the production is what we're looking for. We might get to that production in different ways. Another book, are you a big reader or listener? Or are you just so busy you're just flat out just working?
I am flat out working. I will read something, but it has to be very good. It has to keep my attention.
Okay, so
if I go to the I don't. I'll read a magazine,
Okay, right. We're reading articles, not books. So that's fair.
So the 4-hour work week, and he does have a podcast, but that might be something. So the 4-hour work week, because we all think about we're sold, get old, do all this and then retire. Well, he talks about instead of retiring, how do you create your life in such a way that you basically get many vacations all the time? And to some degree, that's you probably work like vacation in sprints maybe, or, so I think, so you can listen to his podcast too, or we'll find some more. It's a whole different way of looking at it and not even different. I think it was just a cool way of looking at, instead of just thinking okay, when I retire, but how do I get this free time here now, and how much do I need? And just so that book, 4-hour work week, and it's not necessarily about just having a 4-hour work week, but just getting everything really streamlined.
And it will be great to be able to do that. And I can, once, Josh is, whenever he gets to where that he wants to be, it's my part that I have to be able to say it's okay to be able to do that, because I have a guilty conscience. If I'm not at the office and everybody else is there, I feel like I need to be there. Yeah. They're usually okay, it's okay for you to leave. Go ahead and go. Well, they're all good with it. It's me that has the problem.
They see that you've earned the right to do that, and then I had the same issue because I said that's pull from the front leadership. And while I think that's a really good thing, I think that it's maybe a little toxic at times for ourselves,
right?
Because we don't give ourselves permission to go enjoy life. And I've changed that a little bit. If you had asked me 3 years ago, hey, are you going to be at the lake this summer? Or, hey, you going to go play golf this summer? I quit all activities. When the team took off 5-6 years ago, I quit everything. And that's why I gained a ton of weight. That's why I was having bad mental health. Because I wouldn't give myself permission to leave the office.
Right.
First to show up 6-7 o'clock in the morning. Last to leave. I'm working at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah. And because of that, I let everything in my life go. Relationships, physical activities, hobbies, everything.
Yeah, and it's not good. You have to be able to break away from it at some point.
Yeah. And this is the interesting thing too, is for them to grow, for your people to grow, you have to exit a little bit, right? Because they have to have the freedom to know you've got their back, but I can attempt this, or I can, that's the other thing with leadership, that sometimes it's really hard for leaders that are like, you're there all the time. You know, it's how do we set them up so they can grow as fast and that type of thing. And it's funny, like, because even like, so Wednesday I called him, because usually we do a class on Wednesdays and I lead that, and I was sick. I'd had headaches the last 2 days, and woke up that day. I actually got dressed and I was just like, I felt like crap, and I called him and I was like, we're gonna do something else. And he was like, we can do this or this. And I was like, and he was like, but if you're sick, you're sick. And I was like, yeah, but if I'm gonna take a day off work, like, and I'm very much more intentional with my time than he is. Like, my energy level doesn't do what you two do. And he said, and I was like, yeah, but if I'm gonna take like a day, I want to do it because I'm having fun. I'm sick. But then I had to like, and then I need to do this. So we've been working together since February.
Yeah.
So I do need to, and that's like, I need to set something up when I'm not sick to go, okay, if I'm sick, this is what's going to happen. Because I did feel bad. Like, that went back onto his plate, me being on a call. And
it actually turned into a really good session.
Good.
Yeah. We did, we went around the room, kind of like what you recommended. Yeah, well.
Only because I felt so terrible.
I'll get it a little bit. I said, what is your number one superpower in your life? And so just your number one superpower trait. And then we went around the room, and then I discussed why your superpower is also your kryptonite.
Yeah.
Your superpower is oftentimes the reason that maybe your relationships don't work for you, or maybe that people resent you, or whatever.
It's the reason you got here, but you maybe can't get here, whatever that is for you.
Yeah. And so we discussed blind spots, and then we talked about like the opportunity inside teamwork and camaraderie, where, hey, who in here has a trait that maybe they can help fill your blind spot, and maybe we lean on them a little bit more, and we team up a little bit better.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so that's what we did for that session.
Well, and so that's where, so like that, and yet at the same time, I love that, and I want to make sure that, like, okay, if I'm not there, this is who or what covers it, or have, because there's tons of people I could have called on, and I felt bad calling on them like right then without having that plan, and yet, so, and it's funny because, but even in that, like, I knew. I've been here since February. He's doing great. Like, but it's still like.
But makes you feel bad.
Well, and then so I'm not feeling great, and then I felt worse because I wasn't there. You have all this self-talk, and then like makes you feel worse, and you're just like, ugh. So that's part of when I was like, well, when you get in your mind, you know, a little bit. That's where we have to figure out like what's true, what's not. What's the end goal, and then work our way backwards to get to the point where, you know, like Harrison said, you know, it's like, if you know, how do you get to the point where you're like, okay, they can handle that, I can't, you know, and they're not going to think less of me because I'm not there.
They can handle it way better than what you think, or I think that they can. They will be fine. It's me that has the problem.
Yeah. So let's put this into what's going on in my world right now. So Amy's going to hate me for just putting her business out like this. But so Amy has a complex.
So Amy, for anybody that says, Amy runs THLT, the back end.
And Harrison's life.
And Harrison's life.
Like, I don't pay my own bills. I have no idea what my insurance policies cost. Like,
if you want to get to Harrison's money, like, you would kidnap Amy, don't kidnap Amy. But like, she runs everything, and
So I mean, she's over literally everything in my life. And she has done a very good job of hiring and training and replacing, because that was one of the pressures that when we brought Alivia on as a coach and consultant for the companies, Amy is doing a role that she was never actually meant to do. And, you know, she had some mental hangups with her role and things. And I said, Amy, we can get you out of here as soon as we hire, train, and replace your role. And then we can get you into your energy. And it's been 3 or 4 months, and like really pushing her and working through that, and where she's struggling, because as she is delegating, she is losing her sense of self-worth. Does that feel eerily similar?
Yes.
So here, let me give you the testimony to this whole thing. So before she left, she went on a women's retreat this last weekend, and then she went to Disney with her daughter for cheer comp. And before she left, she was talking, and she was crying to me. And she said, Harrison, I feel like I'm now expendable because I have hired, trained, and replaced 99% of my time. My job duties are hours a day now, not all day. It's just like, I have this much stuff to do for the day, and now I have to go figure out what else to go do. And now you can fire me. And I looked at her and I was like, what the hell do I want to fire you?
Yeah.
We finally got this thing right.
Yeah.
And so the testimony to this is, she doesn't know this yet. I had to have the conversation because I didn't want to make her cry while she was on the trip. I'm not firing her. But it's gonna be happy tears.
Right.
Is that the team has a ton of pendings right now. We had a great listing week. We have a huge listing week coming up this next week. We had
91 pendings before we had 17 closes on Friday.
See, that's
great.
Augmentation of the truth for a free crawfish bowl that they're trying to get me paid for.
I think you should.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You did say Friday, so technically you don't have to do the crawfish bowl.
Yeah.
We should have said Thursday.
Yeah. But we had 17 closings this week, like great, and everything went off without a hitch. And what I noticed is like this is one of the easiest, best weeks we've had, and Amy wasn't here. So does that mean that Amy is useless or Amy is awesome?
Yeah. Well,
Amy did her part.
Yes.
That's right. Amy, she set everyone up for success. She taught the system. She managed the checklist. We had a few little fall throughs, nothing big.
Well, but, and the people knew how to handle it. Like we didn't have to. So this is the thing.
No drama, no problem.
That's one I think that sometimes. So especially in like with Amy, you know, like because one of the things that we've been talking about is we want you to get in your energy zone, and so when you have this stuff covered so that you can be out for a week and everything runs, that means now you get to go to the next level. Like that's a huge, awesome thing. And there is it's funny how often our self-talk or something like transitioning that to where her win is that next level.
What helps those people grow?
Oh yeah.
You know, so if I take care of and I have my hand on everything, then it really is not helping. And that's the problem that I have to get past. You know, just like you said the other day, I was sick last Wednesday. Well, I can't even tell you the last time I was sick and missed work. Mm-hmm. I called Lindsay and I said, you're just going to have to come get my phone because I just can't. You know, so I only have one cell phone. So she has my only, you know, means of calling anybody. So if they needed me, they had to call Byron for Byron to come in the house to ask me a question. But Josh, in return, said, I really felt like a loan officer because I took the applications, I answered the calls, I locked the loan, I did all of these things that I probably would have come to you and asked you questions where they handled it. Yeah. So I know without a shadow of a doubt, they can do the job.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
And so this is the cool part because you do want growth for them. Whenever it was 2013, when I was building the team, I very much realized, and I was working with my coach, and I had my hand in everything. Whether it needed to be there or not, I wanted to be there for them. And I realized that I was actually preventing growth. So I took a class in Dallas every Monday because then I couldn't be at the office. Or maybe it was Sunday. No, it was Sunday night. It was Sunday night. So I could, you know, it wasn't done till like 11 o'clock at night. And so by the time I drove home, but otherwise, so like I had to, like, that was how do I make sure one day a week they're not worried about me touching things. And it's very funny, but like I had to like create something else or I would have just kept doing it. And they, you know, just excelled. They did. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then my favorite is when I can ask somebody, like Charlie, when he worked with me, we had an REO account and we had the Freddie Mac account. And it was so interesting because people would ask me about that. I'm like, you need to call Charlie. Let me give you Charlie's number or call our office number. So we had a separate office number. I was like, you need to call Charlie. I have no clue. They would talk about billing. And I'm like, Charlie, we need to be on the phone together. I have no clue. To me, though, like, and even when I sold the business, they would like call me and ask questions, and I was like, "Look, I would help you." And I'm not like I literally don't know. And Charlie has agreed to like take these calls, you know, because I have no idea. And to me, that's when you have that business is somebody else can completely handle that. And I know at first it scared me, but then I was like, wait a minute. If something did happen to Charlie and he didn't work for me anymore, and hopefully it would have been because he had a great opportunity somewhere else. I'm saying, well, what I do? I was like, first of all, I had him write everything down. So we had systems and checklists. I said, but I would call them and say, hey, I just hired this person.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. What you're talking about. Dan Martell describes that in his book, Selective Incompetence.
Yes.
He's like, as a business owner, especially if you want to go and grow and you want to go do something else with your time, you have to have selective incompetence, because if you're competent in every part of your business, everybody knows it. As soon as anything goes wrong, they'll give that job right back to you. And also, like what you're describing, it's a rule of nature. Everybody know what a Galapagos turtle is?
I know Galapagos Island.
Okay, so that's where the turtles are. It's the largest turtle in the world. But do you know what happens if you put that turtle in a small like terrarium or cage?
That's as big as it grows.
It won't grow anymore. Mm-hmm. And if we if we're being helicopter like entrepreneurs and bosses and everything like that, and we never just take that cage off of them and go, okay, well, like, we just got to see if this is going to work out. Like they physically won't grow. That principle is the same in business as it is with a turtle in a cage. It has the ability to be the biggest, baddest turtle on the planet, and yet if we don't take our hands off of them and go, hey, let's do it, they're not going to grow.
Well, and it's always interesting too, because so you have to, when somebody first starts, I actually feel like most businesses don't train enough. They don't spend enough time with them. They're like, it's like seagull. They come and drop the fish and they go. And a lot of times it's because we're too busy. So we waited too long to hire. One of the things that Amy does so well, I had the opportunity to, she was training a new person. I was like, can I sit in? I just want to see the process. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if I could have written a program or asked for somebody to, like, she was in the trenches with them. She showed what she did. They got to hear her make the calls, and then she let them, it was amazing.
I do, we do, you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
that's how you learn.
That's right. And so I think we got to make sure, like, that's the time where they may even feel micromanaged, like where we tell them, look, during this period, you're probably going to feel a little bit like that, but it's because I'm like trying to download what's in my head to you. Mm-hmm. And then as you demonstrate the knowledge, then I'm going to step out and you're going to have more and more autonomy, right? And so, it probably would, and then like you said, that's the cool part of him coming to you and saying, like, I felt like a loan officer. Like, I did these things without the safety net. So
that was a cool leadership.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All I have to do is get sick, and this man feels like a loan officer. This is great.
Yeah, or you might have just discovered that, like, once a week you need to hand your phone over and let them.
Just go get your little G phone. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I have to have another phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has my cell phone number.
Yeah.
And they'll ask, are you okay if I give you my everybody has my cell phone number.
Well, so the offline, I will show you you can still give everybody your cell number, and somebody else can also see it and answer it and take care of the text. You can see it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite kind of phone system.
Yeah. I mean, mine is just where, like, I'm going out of town. This next week, I'm going to a roofing, solar, HVAC, and business acquisition seminar. And, I mean, I'm going to forward my phone to Amy.
Well,
you won't be able to get in touch with me.
Right.
It's going to be great.
Well, the challenge.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, you can text me.
That's the challenge with the traditional phone is the text can't forward, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but there is there's a phone system that you can utilize that does that, because that's going to, and I've said this about you, about Amy, and this would probably for you as well. The challenge with, and we do want to be accessible. That's the type of business that we're in. The challenge, though, that you run into is you're also your own secretary. You're also, and so y'all have got large enough businesses. If we had like a storefront, if you thought about like a clothes store and y'all were doing this much business and you were styling people, you would have somebody that greeted your customers. It's creating that piece where maybe, who's answering the phone, not from a place of just a phone person, but like, but that's maybe next steps too. But at least one day a week. You're
going to have a hard fight with me on that.
I'm going to try.
I'm attached at the hip to this move.
That's the cool thing about the piece is you still can have your phone. You can still see everything. And so you have all of the control, and somebody else can respond or take care of it. Just like my email, if you email me, odds are you're not hearing back from me. Megan is responding to that email. Now, we have been together for a long time. I trained Mon before that, Charlie before that. They respond in my voice. Like when they first start with me, like they're included in every email, because when they respond, I literally want them to know how I would respond. And after a while, like you said, I mean, it's just, everything's a little different, but they can pick up.
Right.
Like, and I mean, everybody knows there's like a little thing at the bottom says sent by, whatever. And yet, now the only one, so she does that. And then if it's something that she can't answer or whatever, she'll tell me. And then I have like 2 or 3 to either answer or tell her what to say.
Right.
And I promise I don't get, in my business now, I don't get near the amount of emails that you guys get. But anyway, so we'll take that offline. But so it is now 11:40. You had Suzie gave us till noon. So what else do we want to know about her before we wrap up?
I don't know.
What should we know? What have we not asked you that we should have asked?
I was going to say, I told you earlier, I'm very boring.
She likes your dog. She loves your husband. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say boring. You're intentional. It sounds like you're highly intentional.
You know what?
What?
Suzie, I have not been, but I have been told that Suzie throws great parties.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you coming to my Halloween party this year?
I'm going to... I hate to use the word try in front of Alivia because I get corrected every time. I am
Alivia?
I am not good at showing up to public events.
I'm very reserved in a lot of ways, but if you dress up, it's Halloween karaoke. Yeah. I mean, you can sing or you don't have to sing. Yeah, you dress up and nobody really even knows who you are. So it kind of gives you that mentality. It's like, okay, I can do a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you come? I was there.
Yeah. That's so are you like you throwing great parties? Are you more of a like you like to entertain at your place, or do you like to go out to other people's parties?
I'd rather do it at my house.
Okay. See, I think he's like that. I'm like that. Like all the family events, everything's at my house. I've got brothers that'll have their kids' birthday parties like at my house because they live in Columbia and everybody else here or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. Because then I love to be the hostess. I don't necessarily go to parties. I just like to be a hostess.
I like to have meetings here. Yeah. But I don't like to have like big groups of people. Like y'all were like, hey, we'll have the crawfish bowl at Harrison's house. I was like, no, you will not.
Like, it stresses me out a little bit, but I love it. Yeah. Now, I mean, as far as I know you're talking about my Halloween party, we've done that probably, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years, maybe something like that. And it just grows, every year. It started out with a lot of our friends, that were coming. And then as Lindsay got older, well, it was her friends that come. And then it's Dylan's friends that come. So it's from like my mother-in-law who is 85 to Dylan's age of 20. So you have a wide variety.
It's a hoot nanny.
Of people. Yeah. Mike McKenzie usually is our DJ.
That's nice.
So, he's really good. And I love to decorate I love to decorate, period. But my Halloween party, I go above and beyond. It takes me a week to get our shop decorated. And then it takes me, like a day to take it all down. But I put a lot of work in it just because I enjoy it. And it's like it's a stress reliever, for me. Last year or year before last, I guess, we had 5 parties at my house from Lizzie's friends that were getting married. So, we hosted all of those. But if we have anything like from Easter, Thanksgiving, everybody comes, we call it the shed, our shop. So we have friends that come there. We've been out of town before, and Greg Hill, which is a really good friend of ours, he'll call and say, hey, we're going to the shop to cook. And they might have people, we might not even be there, but he knows he's more than welcome to go. And it's just like at Caney, it's open invitation. You can come anytime you want to. I tell you, I'm not going to babysit you. Yeah. You can do whatever that you want to do. You can have the food, you can have the drinks or whatever that you want to have, but I'm probably not just going to sit there and entertain you because I want to be, in the water, in the sun, doing my own thing because it's just there again, it's a stress reliever if it's only for a couple hours that I'm not doing something else.
Yeah.
Well, that's so very much, you and I are very similar to that. Like, I want to host. I want to make sure you feel great. I'm not going to babysit. Like, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to do everything I know how to make sure you have a good time, but you have to be somebody that is.
Gotta make your own fun.
You got to be fun, or you got to, like, I'll talk to you. I'm not saying I don't ever talk to you, but it's hey, we're talking, we're chatting. Okay, now we go do our own thing or whatever. So I love that. But yeah, I think Halloween, that would be awesome for Halloween.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I even invited him to my husband's 60th birthday party, but he was a no-show.
I was at a tent. I was at a seminar.
Okay.
I really was.
It was a lot of fun. I had a band.
6 of those a year.
I had a guy to, my daughter, whenever they got married, they had a band from New Orleans. I mean, they were amazing. So I tried to get them, but they were going to be more than what I wanted to spend on a 60th birthday party. So we got somebody from, I think they were from Baton Rouge or something. They were Shreveport. Maybe they were from Shreveport.
Pretty big deal.
They were very good.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
And you had that at the Caney House, right?
Yes.
And so, like, you and Hooks Marina were competing for the crowds.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were probably as loud as Hooks,
Yeah.
The band was excellent.
Yeah.
And then Cherry Elias, do you know Brad Elias? They catered for us. They used to own the Fish House.
Okay.
So, yes, and they did our food, was excellent. So if you ever need a catering service, you can contact them. They're good.
Yep. Very cool. I can't wait to grow up and
I know. I think I want to be like Suzie when I grow up.
No, you don't.
Parts up.
yeah. No, but seriously, I mean, like, it just got a lot of things going for them, but it's things that you've worked for. So I'm not envious, but I'm proud for you, and I'm like, I'll be there one day.
You will be. You just have to strive to meet the goals, and everybody. You want to see everybody do good, just like I've always said. I don't want the whole pie. I just want the majority of the pie. I've always said I wanted a piece of the pie.
Fair share, absolutely.
But I'm very driven.
Yeah.
Which in two, I'm very competitive. So you always want to do good, but I don't want to see somebody else fail or somebody else not to do good.
Well, it's competing with yourself. It's not about putting somebody else down. It's not about, like, we can celebrate that they're doing good too.
Right.
We're gonna do better. Right. Yeah.
The best version of ourselves.
Yeah. Like iron sharpen iron. What was it? Michael Jordan. And what's the
Scottie Pippen?
Nope.
Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Larry Bird. Got it.
Like they both like.
I don't. How is this? Is this silent for Larry Bird?
No, iron sharpen iron. That Larry and my signal. No, iron sharpen iron. But it was like I don't know how true this is, but it was like after Jordan retired, Larry was like, well, I don't have like that competition,
right?
And so he kind of retired afterwards. It was that. And they had been rivals, so it wasn't even like they were friends. It was a drive. They made me better.
Yeah. No, competition's a great driver. It really is.
I love competition with people that I'm friendly with.
Well, me too, and because that's just like within our company, because James is who is my boss, and we're out of Little Rock. And so I'll call him sometimes. It's okay, like, where are we at on the list? And he knows it will get the best of me. So even if he tells me that somebody else is on top, he knows it's going to make me drive to do better if I can.
Wait, is there somebody in the company that does better than you?
Well, I mean, we have been number one, I've been at Eagle, 4 years. So going on my 5th. So the first year we were not number one. But since then, we have been the number one in our company. But even at Iberia, First Horizons now, I was always in the top 3. So you look at Ouachita Parish and you look at the competition that we were dealing with from New Orleans, from Baton Rouge,
much larger market area,
right, to Idaho Falls. So, and Idaho Falls is now
Idaho Falls.
Really. So Idaho Falls and is now with Eagle Bank. So we were competition with Iberia, now with Eagle. They're at the same company. So that's who, if somebody beats me, it's usually her. Mm-hmm. But, it's good, because like I said, it gives you that drive, but it makes me have the drive to try to do better because I want to be one within our company, But, too, you get the statistics and you get things and you know where you are depending on where you look. If you look in the system for Ouachita Parish and you look where we're at, or if you look at different companies, because you can pay to get into, certain areas and things like that, so if I didn't pay to be in that magazine, they'll never know what my numbers are.
Right.
So it's only who, what companies that are people that put in their numbers is what numbers, that it goes based off of.
So do you know where you're at, like in a Northeast Louisiana ranking? Where you at?
I don't like to brag, and that's why I don't That's why I don't put my stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
But we are one.
Let's go.
So, but I know other people, and that's why I don't put it on there, because I'm never going to say, if you say you're one and I'm saying I'm one, I try to be close to know where I am in the guides.
Yeah.
So, and I had James, look to see even like where we were in the state of Louisiana.
So where were we at there?
For the state of
top 10, huh? Yeah.
Well,
what's the number?
No, I am
so humble now. Brag for a second, Suzie.
Yeah, put that ego in your back pocket and let us know.
Yeah.
So we were 10 last year for the state of Louisiana. And I think
Washington.
And one of the smallest towns and small.
Correct.
Because we're not a metro. Like you got Port New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Lake Charles. So you've probably got 10 cities that are larger than
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and so you're able to put out numbers like that.
Right.
And then y'all's business is pretty local, right? It's very centralized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do outlying areas. You look probably Alexandria and up, in East and West Carroll parishes, we do stuff, in those parishes as well. But, and then we go, very few, we'll do in Shreveport. We do occasionally. Arkansas, some, not very many, but it based off of where we were at the other day, whenever he looked at the numbers, we were number 11 in the state.
Okay.
So, 10 overall for last year.
11 right now.
Mm-hmm.
11 right now. Well, we just got to get those numbers up.
I know. Got to get. That's right. We'll get there.
Yeah. But, so it's funny that you're being humble about your numbers, and I do appreciate that. I'm a little less humble than you. But so what I've learned is that nobody gives a shit if you're number one or not.
That's right.
No,
it's an internal thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like you, I want to know, but like the general public, I don't think they care.
No.
Because they just, do I know you? Do I like you? Are you gonna what does that say?
What's your service?
Yeah, what's your service?
Yeah, I think the
I
thing.
don't care. I know that you care type thing.
The reason to say that you're number one is that so that people know that you're successful, you know what you're doing, and maybe you are doing something right on some level that other people probably aren't, and I think it shows a track record of success.
Well, and if you're looking to recruit, if you were looking to recruit another mortgage lender, they may need to know things like that. But the other thing that cracks me up, and this is no shade, because honestly, if I was the broker, I would do it as well, and yet, you see, realtors that they'll have we won this in our office, and I'm like, that's yay, and I'm glad that you were number one in your office, but you did 2 deals last month,
right?
And that's not anything to sneeze at if you're consistent with that, and yet it's but they don't necessarily put the number, so that anyways, it doesn't really matter. It's just always a little bit of it's an interesting thing because
everybody does their numbers different. And it's
how your story, which you should tell your story. But the thing is, if you don't know the whole story,
right?
Yeah,
I'm not allowed to talk on this subject.
Yes,
I'll get in trouble.
Frauds. Yeah. Well, they're saying that it's correct. Yeah. They are number one in their office that month. It's just when you compare it to other things. What is it?
They put in our office in the smallest print ever, number one. Looks like they whisper it at the very end. Yeah. No.
Well, and if you close 2 deals a month, and you're comfortable, and that's where you want to be. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I look at the numbers and I see that somebody closed, just say 50 loans was closed last week. It was like, well, if I only closed 45. It's like, where did all those other 40? What did I do wrong not to get the 45?
Yeah.
But that is a conqueror's mentality. That is a like a pioneer of the industry mentality.
Yeah.
Like, you're not trying to get by. You're trying to win.
Right.
Yeah. And I resonate with that. So I love that about you.
Well, and it's not that you don't want to win to hurt somebody else.
No.
You want to win because it means something.
Yeah.
I guess it drives you to be able to say.
Yeah. I don't wish bad
Right.
competitors, to be clear.
Well, I mean, me either. And like I said, I mean, it's like somebody will say, well, why don't you post on Facebook, or why don't you post your numbers? And it's like, I don't know. I just don't. But I'm not a Facebook poster, a lot of things. You know, we post things about our business, and sure, I should have posted, you know, that we were number one, you know, within our company for 2023. But and things get by, and I just don't.
Well, and I actually, we've talked about this with the realtors and people are coaching. Again, like, people don't care.
Right.
Like, it now, like, your mama, your loved ones, they might, like...
It's just my ego that cares, if we're being honest.
Well, and it does, and it's like, how many likes did you get, and how many comments did you get? Mm-hmm. You know, so if that's important to you, then...
Yeah. Well, and like, but even like when you look at, like, because again, a lot of our business comes from social media. And one time I had somebody ask me, it's just, you know, I was selling, you know, real heavy back then, and they were like, would you tell people when you're out of town? And I'm like, because people like to do business with interesting people.
Right.
Like, I can work from anywhere, you know, so like there are times that I've written a contract in New York or, you know, on a boat or whatever. I said, but people, they're going to be way more interested in me if I'm doing this or that or sharing something versus I'm number one. Well, what does that mean? Well, right. That doesn't tell you anything about who I am or what service I deliver. So I think you just be really intentional with what's the message that you want to people to know you for. Right. And I'm not opposed to like the number one or the iterate that.
We do an awful job of telling our numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
We really do. I'm with you. But you know what? A lot of the reason that we quit displaying our numbers is because I got tired of getting really mean messages from competitors. Like, you know, you just think you're so awesome. Like, no, I'm just proud of my people.
Right.
But I got tired of the fight.
You want to get the kudos to the people that work for you.
Yeah, because I don't even put my own name on it. Like,
right.
We
got more likes on our little giveaways that we gave away for Easter, our little Easter basket things that I made up, than I probably did on how to buy a house.
Yes.
You know, so they're looking and getting more videos or things, and like you said, it's about more personal things. How can they get to know you to like you better?
Yes. Like we want to do business with people that we like. Now, do I want to know that you're competent in your job? Sure. And yet it's kind of like, now we shouldn't always do this, but I always think about it. Like when I go into the doctor's office, somebody walks out, they've got a coat on and a stethoscope. I just assume they know what they're doing and they're good at their job.
Right.
Well, so most people, whether it's the lender or the realtor, et cetera, like they should be able to. I know that, you know, just look at you and go, okay, then you're good at your job. You have done your study and you've got the coach. Like you're good at your job. So now it just becomes, who do I connect with the most?
Absolutely. Because in any market, you're going to find, like Suzie, would you agree? There's another one or two lenders in this area that are good lenders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So how are people going to pick? And that's where telling your story and community involvement and relationships and all that stuff really come into play. And whoever does more of that, well, especially when you're one of the qualified, like that's what's going to be your difference on who's going to get the files. So where those other 45 files go, it's probably whoever did those things better than you.
Right.
Yeah. Which hopefully those weren't real numbers.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. You had the 45, right? Yeah.
So on that note, we so appreciate you coming.
Oh, thanks for having. Absolutely, I enjoyed it.
See, it wasn't that bad.
It was not bad.
Yeah. We told her, so we.
Thanks to Bruno over here.
Bruno was her supporting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get you registered, man.
Yes, but we would have had this conversation out and about, or if we went and ate lunch together. So we said, hey, let's put a mic up and record it and see what happens.
Well, you might think differently by the time you get done with this, with all that and anyway, and okay.
No, I'm extremely excited, and I do appreciate you sharing what you shared because you are a very humble person. It's one of those, knowing what you do and how you do it, I know you're competitive. You also in my mind, a lot of times I think of competitive people as like aggressive, like in their mannerisms.
Right.
You're not.
She's not. Yeah.
But
It's a really weird combination.
in some ways, and I don't know how much you knew Christy Wheeler, but she kind of reminds me of Christy Wheeler.
Christy tried to hire me.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
I don't doubt that.
She wanted me to come on board, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, I was newer, doing that. And it's like, okay, I guess my concern and my drawback has always been if I go in, I get a lot of realtor-based business, because that's where I get all my business from. Even whenever I worked at Iberia, my business was not coming from Iberia Bank. It was coming from all the other realtors.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So whenever she asked me, I was just it's like, I don't know, Christy. I said, one, I think I need to get more experience. Number two, Kit will feed me.
Yeah.
Because if they liked Jane over here better than they like me, they're going to continue to go to Jane. Yeah. Just because I'm sitting in that office.
Right.
But I think that office will not allow me to get business from somebody else.
Yeah.
So that has always been my hang up to doing something, like
Yeah, were they trying to
so,
do like a joint venture or something with you at that time?
Well, it was the same thing like
With Movement Mortgage and come in.
it was before Movement came in. She came to me.
And the thing is because we all said, like, who's the best? Well, Suzie. So it spoke, I think, to who you are that they wanted to invite you in. And that's where everybody's got to look and does this make business sense to me? But with that said, that was Christy. I remember whenever Chuck had recruited her to the team leader role, Chuck was like, well, I'm a little bit worried because I feel like, maybe you're not going to move fast enough.
Right.
And it's so funny that because Christy was a lot like you in the sense of like calm. I think it was a certain calmness about you. And I was looking, she was in the back seat. I was looking in the mirror when Chuck said that. And you saw, like, she wasn't angry, but she was very emphatic. She said, Chuck Roberts, I do more by 10 o'clock than you do all day. Like, she was, and she was serious. So
I've never seen this her.
Right. Yeah, but like, you have that, like, you have that calming energy, like she did, and also that, but, that drive and that, and so,
well, she's probably like me. You get very stressed, but you try not to perceive that to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because if I'm stressed and I'm showing it, well, what's going to happen to the next person? They're going to be stressed too. And if I call you and say, oh my gosh, I can't make this work and I don't know what I'm going to do, it's like, well, we're all in a tizzy.
That's right.
You try just to,
this is the next step. We're going to take care of you.
that's right. Just
Calming.
Well, just whenever you call somebody, it's like you got a 400 credit score, like I'm not going to call them. No, and I'm not going to call and say, your credit sucks and you're terrible. You're going to say, okay, this is some things that you need to do, and this is something that you need to work on. Whenever you feel like that you're where you need to be, then you call me back. I'm just not going to downgrade somebody else. I don't care what position that you're in.
Right.
You just don't. I just don't treat people like that. If you look at my motto is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So I just try to perceive that over in what I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you today.
Well, thank you so much. Hope you got something out of it.
All right.
That was great.